The Play Action podcast is fueled by Picasso's Pizza, where every night is pizza night.
Welcome to Play Action, the Buffalo News football podcast. I'm Lance Lysowski, joined by Katherine Fitzgerald. Katherine, we've reached week 18.
We sure have.
We have.
Yeah. It felt like it would never come, and at the same time, I can't believe we're still not in the dorms at St. John Fisher.
That is a good way to put it. It's been 5 months since you first checked into your dorm room at St. John Fisher.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh. Memories.
Yeah.
I feel like in those 5 months, we have learned a lot about this team, but we also are still learning about this team, even though it's, like you said, it's week 18.
Yeah, and that Eagles game, we talked about it last week. It was going to be one that it was the final game that could prepare them for the playoffs.
Yes.
With all due respect to the Jets, like the Bills more likely than not are going to sit some guys. Now, I know that you can't sit everybody, but they're going to be cautious with some. And that's a good segue to our first topic, which is the offense,
Yes.
Katherine. And a big part of that is Josh Allen's right foot. Earlier this season, it was his nose. What other body parts have been hurt that were a focal point?
This season or in his life, he's had just like, it feels like head, shoulder, knees, and toes a little bit.
It's been a little bit of everything. Now it's the right foot. Struggled in the second half in that Philly game. He got uncomfortable, which like the soreness came back.
Yes.
Joe Brady told us on Monday he had to sort of change his play calling strategy in the second half because of it. And now we see whether Josh Allen plays on Sunday against the Jets.
My prediction, we'll hear more from Sean McDermott later today, is he starts to get his streak continued and then they get him out of there as quickly as possible. It's just not worth banging up your franchise quarterback anymore when he is already banged up. The Jets are the Jets, obviously, but I think, the interesting thing to me is, are they going to bring in another quarterback for practice squad and then elevate them, or is it just Josh is then back up to Mitch Trubisky if something happens to Mitch? Right now they're down to 2 quarterbacks. Or if they just, Sean McDermott joked that he could get out there and throw. They put someone random out. But in all seriousness, I think, Josh starts and then is done.
Yeah, and I know they want to win this game. It would certainly help to win it. So you don't want to get the 7 seed, but you should be able to win this game with Mitch Trubisky. It's why you're paying somebody like him as much as they're paying him. He can run the offense, and I don't think a lot of these skill players are going to sit in this game. But I think it's been a talk. The injury has been sort of overlooked in the national narrative about the Bills. Like I kept hearing the past few days, listening to different podcasts, people talking about Josh Allen's struggles, but it is entirely the right foot. It's entirely the right foot. I mean, part of it was the Cleveland game. The entire game plan was built around not allowing Myles Garrett to wreck the game, and it impacted them in certain ways. But that Philadelphia game, Katherine, I thought there were some positives come out of it. Of course, the offensive line sort of struggled, which led to Josh Allen getting hit too many times. But Brandon Cooks ends up having a really big game, and that's important. They needed to figure out this wide receiver rotation, and for him to show with it at 12 years in the league, he's somebody who can help them in the playoffs once it all starts.
Yeah, I've been fascinated by how they still have to figure that out at this point in the season.
Tough.
And when they're trying to figure it out, how continuity is also so important. Sean McDermott has said, but you can't get that continuity when you're still tweaking things, spinning the dial, as he says. But I think week 18, that is one of those cases where maybe you do have kind of the starting guys out there at receiver just because you want to get them a little more run together.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, Joshua Palmer, he missed that time with injury. Try to get him more involved. You want to get that group feeling good about itself going into the playoffs.
For sure.
And, I mean, especially there's still, as we sit here, of course, Sean McDermott hasn't talked yet. It is Wednesday morning. But as of right now, we don't know the status of Dalton Kincaid's knee.
Yeah.
He is a very important piece to this offense. And if he's not going to be, again, hypotheticals, we're looking ahead a week and a half, Katherine, but if he's not going to be available, a couple of these receivers really need to emerge. Tyrell Shavers has earned a prominent role in this offense and made another big catch in that game against Philadelphia. I think you have Brandon Cooks, who's certainly going to be involved, Khalil Shakir, and then who else is there? Joshua Palmer is getting a lot of run, but hasn't really done a lot with it. We're sitting here. Keon Coleman was healthy and active again last week. I wonder if he plays this week to get him some reps and see if, how he can help them perhaps. But it is a position group that, they wanted to get this resolved a lot sooner than they have. And it just makes it a little bit more difficult these last 2 weeks, not only with Josh Allen's foot, but the game plan itself.
Yeah, I do not envy coaches who are trying to kind of forecast 2 weeks ahead, but also, they still want to win this game for seeding, but also just to not lose to the Jets.
You want to finish your regular season strong going into the playoffs.
Yes, and at Highmark Stadium, which we'll touch on later.
Yeah, and I think that before we move on, I think James Cook, that's an important one to touch on.
Yes.
How much he plays. He is still first in the NFL in rushing yards.
Yes.
That rushing title means a lot to him. I'm sure it means a lot to his teammates. The coaches want to see him do it, but it's also the balance that he is a very good player and you don't want to risk injury.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what they do to kind of, if they want to pad his numbers so that he can secure that rushing title, or if they want to, like you said, not risk an injury. And some of that'll depend to, his production. He is by himself an extremely productive running back, but who else is in the game and kind of how that stems from there. Well, we can't talk about the Bills without talking about the defense, obviously. I like the phrase you used when we were getting ready for the segment about the microscope on the defense lately heading into that Philadelphia game, and just, what are they going to be able to do run defense-wise against Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts getting involved too, and just there has been such a focus on this run defense all season for, I think that's merited many times. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that coming out of it, it's been interesting to hear some of the reaction to it because, yes, the Eagles have not been as effective offensively as they were last season. That is still a really good team. Good receivers, good offensive line, very good running back. So for the Bills to hold Saquon Barkley to under 70 rushing yards, Jalen Hurts, completed one pass in the second half. They had 17 yards of total offense. This run defense needs to prove it in the playoffs. But Katherine, the improvement we've seen from that group as a whole it's significant in the second half of the season. Sean McDermott's talked about it since he got here. Really, your team needs to be improving as the year goes along.
Yes.
And especially this defense, it has some young players, as he's mentioned previously. You got to be trending in the right direction, and they've got to feel pretty good about not satisfied, especially losing the game, but they have to feel better about where they're trending in terms of shutting down the pass, which they've been really good at. Christian Benford and Cole Bishop have had a significant part in that, but also for the most part, we'll eliminate some of those big runs against New England. They've done a lot better against the run.
Yeah, I think it's been kind of, you look at their ability to make adjustments, and it is both throughout the season as a whole as they improve, but also within games as the second half has always looked so much better. Sometimes it's because the first half just looks very bad.
Yes.
But that was not the case against the Eagles, I don't feel. I think it was just they were so improved in the second half that it was, I don't know, something felt a little different about that to me.
Yeah, there were one or two drives in the first half where the Eagles moved the ball. It's but the one that they scored the touchdown on off of the weird fumble called against Josh Allen. But for the most part, I'm with you. I think that group completely shut the Eagles down in the second half, but the first half, it really wasn't all that bad. I mean, especially when you consider, Jordan Poyer wasn't playing in that game.
Very thin at defensive tackle.
You got to give credit to guys like Fedarian Mathis, who stepped up and really gave them some good reps. But you look ahead to the playoffs, Katherine, and yes, this past defense has to continue to be a strength. But let's think about the three teams that they might face.
Yes.
The Denver Broncos, the New England Patriots, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Two of those three teams have been extremely inconsistent with running the ball. The New England Patriots, they're getting healthier on the offensive line. Maybe that'll lead to some more production. They're probably the best out of the three at running it. So, that is, you think about the AFC field, most of the teams are not great at running the ball. But still, the Bills, they've got some guys who are getting healthier. Matt Milano's been very good the last 3 or 4 weeks. They need to show it when it matters most.
Yes, and I would think, too, just kind of, you're going to get your best week after week at this point, after the Jets, respectfully.
Yes.
But you're going to get every team's best in the playoffs, and that, whatever their ability to run the ball during the regular season is, I think you still can't be like, oh, this team, we got them, it's going to be fine. You have to really game plan and then execute.
Now, of course, they'll have Poyer back for the playoffs, I'm sure. We'll see about Terrell Bernard with his calf injury, but Ed Oliver's not going to come save the day for that run defense, Katherine.
No.
Sean McDermott told reporters after the game on Sunday that Oliver had a setback in his recovery from a biceps injury. I think they were already kind of erring on the side of caution in terms of, if he comes back, great. If he doesn't, well, we have to do what we have to do.
We can't plan on it.
Exactly. Yeah. So with him, probably we'll just assume he's not coming back. They're going to need, TJ Sanders led defensive tackles and snaps in that game against the Eagles. Had a good game. Deion Walker needs to continue to ascend. So yes, it's been kind of patchwork with who they've lost, but it needs to look a lot more like that Eagles game than the first half against the Cleveland Browns, for example.
100%.
Katherine, it is the last game. Well, last regular season game. We'll see about the playoffs at Highmark Stadium.
Sure is. I don't know. I feel we drive by the stadium construction for the new stadium so many times a week, and I don't know. It's like it's so real now.
It is. I know you talk to players, you talk to people who work for the team who are there day in and day out. It means a lot to them, season ticket holders. So much of the game day experience may not change. Tailgate lots aren't going to change. But there is still a lot of nostalgia wrapped in this event. I'm very interested to see how the Bills celebrate it. Sean McDermott said it means a lot to him to win this game. Yeah. It means a lot to the players to win the game. I think it's, going to be, yes, everybody's looking forward to the new stadium, but I think it'll still be an emotional time because it's an old building, a lot of good teams, a lot of heartbreaking moments for the franchise, some very big wins, whether it be in the early 90s or recently. So, yeah, see how they send it off.
I think it's also interesting where, again, things could get weird in the playoffs. They could end up hosting again. Yeah. But going into a game with a more percent likelihood knowledge of this is going to be the last one. That's different than when we looked at, the start of the season and it was like, oh, well, they'll probably host some playoff games. So then we'll never know when it'll be the last one until it's the last one, if that makes sense. But I think now just kind of going in still, it might not be the last one, but there's so much more certainty than before.
Yeah, in this game, I know, like, there's going to be, whether Mitch Trubisky on offense, maybe we see more, a lot more of Jackson Oz and Kaliki Latu, but there are some players that can really benefit from, I think back to last season, Katherine, like Javon Solomon got a lot of playing time against the Patriots. Who are going to be those guys for this game? And the one that stands out to me, then this game will have a little bit more meaning to him, is Joe Andreessen.
I was about to say the same thing. Yeah.
And he's had a really good season on special teams. He's somebody that still a player who's developing. And I think, it's somebody who, if they have an injury in the playoffs, he might be needed on defense. And that's what I like about these games. It's what I like about the preseason. It's guys getting opportunity because that's how they're going to be able to develop and improve. And we saw, how much confidence guys, in previous years have gained from a game like this.
And sometimes it's a reward for them, too, of like, hey, you've worked your tail off all season. Let's get you some more snaps on whatever side of the ball you're actually on versus just special teams, which, not to downplay special teams, very important. Yeah. But, yeah, I think that's a big part of this week. We mentioned some of the things they might be pushing for. James Cook and his rushing title, potentially. Different incentives. But it is going to be a chance for different guys to get mixed in.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm... especially some of the newer guys, right? There's two players in particular, veterans who might be able to help them on defense in the playoffs. Darnell Savage being one, the safety, played one snap against the Eagles. But in a game like this, it's a lot more helpful for a guy to work through the defense and all of the pre-snap stuff in an actual game compared to practices. And the other one is Matthew Judon, the edge rusher they added to their practice squad. Now, he hasn't been around. We'll see. You never know. So much of it is his grasp on the playbook, who they're going to be sitting in that position group. But if they decide to sit somebody like Joey Bosa, for example, it could just be an opportunity to get Judon some work and see what you have there, because he did struggle in Miami, but this is a different defense, a different supporting cast, and an experienced player. And Sean McDermott always talks about rushing four and not having to blitz so much. Blitzes have been very effective for them, especially in the second half of games, but getting some more for your pass rush is going to be so key in these playoffs.
Yeah, and I think just kind of, again, what can you uncover last minute that can help you for a playoff stretch is going to be so big for a team that has been really navigating a lot of injuries and mixing different players in from the start of the season, basically.
This is going to be an interesting weekend because you almost have to scoreboard watch. It's not just what the Bills do. It's what, and we're not going to go over all the playoff scenarios because it'll just make people's heads spin. But it is like we're going to find out Sunday night at some point where the Bills are going to be going, whether that's Denver, New England, Jacksonville. And I think, as much as, especially when you're in the bubble, we'll call it the Bills bubble. It's so easy to just focus on the problem, the way things have gone for them this season. But this AFC, Katherine, is wide open, whether it's the injuries of New England has had, Bo Nix being Denver's quarterback and the inconsistency there. Jacksonville's on a real heater right now, but you don't know what version of Trevor Lawrence is going to show up each week. So it is, and I think it's on the same, somewhat similar in the NFC. This is wide open. There's no powerhouse team. There's no Kansas City Chiefs. There's no favorite going into it, which I think is going to make it really fun these next couple of weeks.
Should be a spicy meatball that we'll be following along. Make sure you're reading on buffalonews.com, subscribing wherever you get your podcasts, and Happy New Year's to all our listeners.
Treat your team to the most flavorful pizza on game day at Picasso's Pizza. 4 great Western New York locations: Williamsville, West Seneca, Lancaster, and Blaisdell. Picasso's. We are Buffalo's Pizza since 1980. Order online today at picassospizza.net.